Hello, you are tuning in to another live editions of VTV News right here on VTV International. I am Minh Hằng and here are the headlines at this hour. Government convenes monthly meetings on socio-economic situation. President Barack Obama addresses EC situation in recent speech. And Vietnam 2014 Annual Economic Report released. On to the first news today. The government convened its monthly meeting on Thursday. Discussions centered on the political, diplomatic and economic ramifications of protesting China's placements of its oil rig within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Speaking at the meeting, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng highlighted over 30 meetings that Vietnam has had with multi-level Chinese officials to clearly state Vietnam's positions on China's illegal move. The Prime Minister reiterated that Vietnam would continue to voice its opposition within the international arena as well as resolutely defend its territory in a peaceful manner according to international law. In terms of the socio-economic situation, the Ministries of Industries and Trade reported that all trade activities with China were operating as normal. Stability has also been reported for the stock, foreign exchange and gold markets. During May, the consumer price index increased 1.08%, while the first 5 months of the year saw an increase of 4.73%. Now, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Phạm Bình Minh and EU High Representative for Foreign Relations and Security Policy Catherine Ashton discussed measures to promote bilateral relations during a phone conversation on Thursday. The two sides committed to doing their best to conclude negotiations on a free trade agreement before the 10th Asia Year Meetings or ASEM 10 Summit. The EU High Representative expressed her special concern about China's acts in Vietnam's water, saying they may affect regional security. Ashton proposed that the parties concerned seek peaceful and cooperative measures in line with international law. The EU called for all sides to take measures in reducing tensions, noting that unilateral acts have negative impacts on regional peace and stability. Now, on Wednesday, May the 28th, U.S. President Barack Obama delivered an important speech at West Point Military Academy on United States foreign policies. To date, his foreign policies have been criticized by some for being unclear, passive, and dependent on multilateral diplomacies instead of military intervention. In his recent speech, he addressed the issues of rising tensions in the EC.
In his speech, Obama announced that the U.S. will force China to adhere to international principles and laws in the EC as well as other regions, and that the U.S. is ready to retaliate in light of China's aggression, while stressing that current U.S. foreign policies are more diplomatic than military in nature. Obama said that the U.S. is ready to use force if core American benefits or the security of its allies are threatened, or in the case of a world-changing calamity.
Regional aggression that goes unchecked, whether in southern Ukraine or the South China Sea or anywhere else in the world, will ultimately impact our allies and could draw in our military. We can't ignore what happens beyond our boundaries.
Obama said it will not be easy for America to participate in the resolution of EC tensions, since the country's Congress has not yet passed the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. He stated that joining this convention will increase American security and global leadership. The U.S. President's speech was delivered in the context of America's axis shifting to the Asia-Pacific, and Chinese provocations and challenges to Vietnam's sovereignty have been interpreted as a threat to America's interests in the region.
Now, China's illegal placement of an oil rig and deployments of ships in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf have drawn increasing attentions from the international media. On Thursday, CNN features an interview between Vietnamese Deputy Foreign Minister Phạm Quang Vinh and host Christy Lustout. Now, in the following report, we'll take a look at an extract from their conversation.
How far is Vietnam willing to go to preserve your claim to this territory?
We reaffirm that we will be very much firm and resolute to defend our territory and sovereignty, and we will continue to do so and take all peaceful measures under international law, including UNCLOS, to protect and defend our sovereignty.
Reports out this week of a Chinese ship ramming a Vietnamese fishing vessel. This has been seen as a provocative act. Is Vietnam angered by this?
First, we must say that the fishing boat of Vietnam on 26th of May has both been rammed and sunk by a Chinese ship. Oh, so this is an act of escalating tensions in the region, and it is intentionally. We have protested against this act and consider it inhumane, and we request that such acts in future will have to be stopped.
Many countries in the region, including Vietnam, increasingly rely on China for trade and to keep their economies afloat. So how do you plan to counter their claim and to rightfully claim what is yours?
I have mentioned that Vietnam is resolute in defending its sovereignty and maritime zones. We will take all peaceful measures under international law to protect our sovereignty, and we will continue to do so. We have been in talk with the Chinese side. We have communicating to the world, and we will continue to take all measures, peaceful measures under international law to protect our own sovereignty under international law. And you know that big or small countries have to respect international law. This is our word of today.
And that again was an extract of Vietnamese Deputy Foreign Minister Phạm Quang Vinh speaking with CNN host Christy Lustau. Now earlier on Wednesday, CNN's Christine Almanpour also interviewed Vietnamese Ambassador to the U.S., Nguyễn Quốc Cường. The diplomat stressed that while Vietnam wants to develop friendly ties with China, it does not accept any acts of coercion or threat. Let's have a look at that interview in the following.
Mr. Ambassador, welcome to the program and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me to the program.
Can I ask you first, recently you all said, China and Vietnam, that your relations were onto a much better foot, that things were going much better between you. What has happened and can it be rebuilt, this relationship?
Yes, Vietnam-China relations in the last year has been improved. But all of a sudden, China sent its oil rig and a large contingent of vessels to escort the oil rig into Vietnamese waters. And it's a serious violation of Vietnam's sovereignty and sovereign rights. And the Vietnamese people, we have no other way but to respond peacefully but resolutely.
I spoke to China's ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Sui Tiankai. I spoke to him last week. Basically, he says they don't want a conflict with Vietnam, but that China only has one rig, that these are undisputed waters, they're international waters. And he says you actually, Vietnam, has 30 oil rigs.
Yeah. You see that, China is creating facts on the ground by, changing the status quo. It's in the continental shelf, exclusive zone of Vietnam, not in the disputed area. So China, by doing so, China is trying to turn an undisputed area into a disputed area, and that is unacceptable. And talking about Vietnam's oil and gas exploitation activities, we've been doing it for decades, but it's in the continental shelf, in the exclusive economic zone of Vietnam, not in the disputed area, waters. So, and foreign companies, so many foreign companies are cooperating, doing business with Vietnam in the oil and gas exploration. Do you believe that they would do it if they think it's in the disputed area? I don't think so.
All right,
but, and in 2012, China also offered some bidding, international bidding, for some oil blocks in the continental shelf of Vietnam, and no foreign country accepted their bidding, their offer.
But you're seeing the way China is making these claims in, for instance, the disputed islands with Japan and also with various territorial issues with the Philippines. Now, your issue has caused a lot of protests in your country. But I want to ask you, as you deal with those protests, how do you expect to get protection from China? Because America, while you've got relations, you're not under America's security or treaty umbrella in this regard.
Yeah, you see that, Vietnam is following an independent foreign policy. You want good relations with China, you want good relations with the United States and other countries. And, but we cannot accept the coercion, we cannot accept threats. And when the issue of sovereignty and national integrity is concerned, the Vietnamese people are very determined to defend our sovereignty rights. And no country should underestimate the Vietnamese people's determination to defend our sovereignty and sovereignty rights. For the Vietnamese, 100% Vietnamese, no matter where they live, in Vietnam, in the United States, or in other countries, we all believe that for Vietnamese, nothing is more precious than independence and freedom.
Well, we'll continue to watch. Ambassador Win Kuk Kuyan, thank you very much indeed for joining me from Washington.
Thank you.
Now that is an interview between CNN's Christine Amanpour with Vietnamese ambassador to the United States, Quốc. Now moving on to a related story. In addition to the royal documents of the Nguyen dynasty, which affirms Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos, there are many other historical documents which also confirms Vietnam's legal right to these islands. One such source is the textbook Khai Đông Thuyết Ước, or the textbook for children, which contains a basic map which affirms Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel archipelago. Let's take a closer look in the following.
In my hands is a textbook named Khai Đông Thuyết Ước, or the textbook for the children. It's one of the oldest textbooks found in Vietnam so far. It's also one of the rare historical documents that prove the ancestors of Vietnamese people were always aware of the sovereignty of the nation.
Compiled in 1841 by a scholar named Phạm Phục Trai and edited by Dr. Ngô Thế Vinh, Khai Đông Thuyết Ước was written in both the Chinese and Nom languages. This textbook taught various subjects such as history, astronomy, social history, and morality. Of particular relevance is a chapter regarding national territories, in which there is a map entitled The Map of the Country. In this map, the place name Paracel Archipelago is clearly noted on the background of a drawing of the sea. According to Dr. Trần Trọng Dương from the Institute of Sino-Nom Studies, the appearance of a map in a textbook was a unique feature at the time.
Cái cuốn này nó thú vị ở chỗ là gì? Lần đầu tiên.
The interesting thing about this textbook is that for the first time, we had a document compiled in the 19th century, which is totally focused on Vietnamese history and also depicted Vietnam's territory and waters. Importantly, the Paracel archipelago is shown in its map. That information inside this textbook related to Vietnam's waters and islands is a milestone for that time.
Là một trong những cái cải cách cực kỳ mới ở thời điểm thời bấy giờ.
Khai Đông Thuyết Ước was first printed in 1881. This proved that during the Nguyen dynasty, Vietnam's sovereignty over the sea and islands were clearly affirmed on maps. Notably, that is a textbook map for small children learning as primary level. The textbook were copied and reprinted many times over the course of nearly 100 years. This textbook from the 19th century proved not only to be a valuable teaching tool, it also proves its worth today by affirming the country's sovereignty over the Paracel archipelago. For modern-day scholars, discovering a historical document in the form of a textbook is very important.
I'm both a researcher and teacher, so I really care about education. particularly the teaching of history. Discovering this textbook is very important because it may make educators today plan a textbook compilation which has practical applications for building patriotism and defending sovereignty.
Khải đồng thuyết ước was last printed in 1932. Currently, different issues of this textbook, including printed and written versions, are kept at the Institute of Sino-Norm Studies for further studies.
Still to come on VTV News, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng meets with World Bank Country Director. And renovations of the Huế Ancient Capitals Complex, one of the 23 national relics.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Welcome back to VTV News live from Hanoi. Now on Tuesday, the Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng met with Victoria Khoa, the World Bank's country director on Vietnam, on Thursday. The Prime Minister affirmed that Vietnam will cooperate with the World Bank to improve investment environment and boost competitiveness in Vietnam. Victoria Khoa appreciated Vietnam's timely solutions following the incidents in Bình Dương to resume the operations of factories in the region. She affirmed that the World Bank was willing to support Vietnam in compensating damaged enterprises, improving the investment environment, and providing development assistance funds. Now on Tuesday, the Ministries of Planning and Investment, in cooperation with the World Bank, launched a project to reduce poverty in the Central Highland region, as well as the central provinces of Quảng Nam and Quảng Ngãi. The World Bank has funded a total $165 million in loans and reciprocal capital for the project. An estimated 540,000 people will benefit from this project to improve infrastructure works and increase employment opportunities in the area. At present, 74% of the Central Highlands ethnic minorities are living under the poverty line. The project is expected to last until 2019. Now in Hanoi, also on Thursday, the Vietnam Center for Economics and Policy Research, or VEPR, officially released its 2014 annual economic report entitled The Constraints to Growth. More to follow.
According to this report, although Vietnam's macroeconomic activities indicate positive transitions, challenges still exist. The report mentions that China's illegal deployment of the Haiyang Shiyou 981 oil rig has posed certain challenges to the two countries' economic ties, particularly when Vietnam's manufacturing sector is heavily dependent on the Chinese market. The report also says that inflation is expected to fall and remain within the forecast bracket of under 6%. Although there are positive signs of recovery, Vietnam's economy has not yet returned to full stability. This year's annual report has forecast a GDP growth rate ranging between 4.15% and 4.88%. Both figures are lower than the actual economic growth in 2015.
Architecturally, culturally, and historically valued, the Huế Ancient Capital Complex is listed in the 23 national relics of extreme importance and is a site of World Cultural Heritage. As such, it requires renovation. However, this is no easy task since the complex is a wooden structure.
Thái Tổ Miếu, the ancestral shrine, lies in Đại Nội Huế, or the Forbidden City. It is dedicated to the 9 Yuan dynasty kings who expanded the country to the south. Sadly, the place is severely dilapidated. It was last renovated in 1972 and forced to shut down due to downgrading in 1980. At present, the wooden beams are withering. The Phu Van Lo, or Phu Van Pavilion of Huế Ancient City, is a symbol of Hué's heritage. On May the 15th, parts of its roof suddenly collapsed. The wooden architecture was renovated before 1975 and underwent a minor upgrade in 1993 with no further maintenance since.
The main cause of the collapse was the replacement of wood with concrete. This nonsensical structuring put too much pressure on the roof and caused the collapse.
The Nguyen dynasty constructed exotic rare wood structures in this ancient city, including palaces and tombs. The decomposition of the wood, coupled with damage from natural disasters, has severely diminished these relics, and constant inspection and preservation are needed for their restoration.
These wooden structures are priceless and require careful research before their repair. Renovation must be standardized and open to input from countries like Japan and Poland in order to improve their lifespan.
Hue's ancient capital now has a massive 400 structures in abject conditions awaiting revitalization. Many of these structures are wooden and without timely renovation, collapses like in the case of Phu Van Lo will be unavoidable.
Chiang Mai Seaport in Thừa Thiên Huế province has great potential for cruise tourism, but it received just 4% of the total number of visitors to Vietnam via the sea. So what should the authorities do to attract more cruise ships to the port? The following report takes a closer look.
In 2013, a ship belonging to the Star Cruise 2 company got trapped by fishing nets at Chiang Mai Seaport, causing it to fall behind schedule and seriously affecting Chiang Mai's reputation. Poor infrastructure planning has been blamed for unexpected cases like this, and consequently, the number of cruise ships that docked at the port last year fell by 21 compared to 2012.
There should be better protection at Chiang Mai Seaport. Sometimes our cruise ships have to dock at the port in very bad weather in January and February. In those cases, we have to cancel our schedule.
Chiang Mai was selected as one of the top transit seaports in Southeast Asia, connecting Singapore and Hong Kong. But in recent years, Chiang Mai has welcomed only 40,000 tourists each year, while the total number of tourists visiting Vietnam by sea has reached about 930,000. In addition, the number of tourists visiting Hue via sea decreased remarkably from 4.8% in 2012 to 3.2% in 2013. Experts say the port is currently not popular enough to attract cruise ships.
Firstly, we should have a standard seaport for cruise tourism. Secondly, we should create good services which meet the tourist needs. Thirdly, we need to promote Thừa Thiên Hué's unique tourist attractions and link the province with other destinations in the region.
According to experts, Chiang Mai and other seaports in Vietnam should diversify their services and upgrade their infrastructure so that tourists will stay for longer and spend more when they arrive here.
If we do not provide a special experience for tourists, including services and trade, they will spend very little when they arrive in port.
To utilize this potential, investment and planning is needed at Chiang Mai Seaport. This was the main consensus at the recent conference on strategies to develop cruise tourism held in Thừa Thiên Huế province. At the event, delegates expressed their hope that Chiang Mai Seaport will become the cruise tourism hub of Vietnam when the right steps are taken to attract ships back to the area.
And now it's time we take a look at some online news about Vietnam.
Saigon Giải Phóng reports that the Argentinian Acercándonos Ediciones publishing house has released a book to honor late President Ho Chi Minh's thoughts and remind local readers of the majestic history of Vietnam's fight against foreign aggressors. This book is part of a set of classic works highlighting Marxism, Leninism, and the ideology of leaders of the world proletariat. It begins with a speech by young Ho Chi Minh, then known as Nguyễn Ái Quốc, at the 18th National Congress of the French Communist Party held in Tours City, and closes with his will and testament. The United Nations looks set to develop a sanitation and wastewater management center in Southeast Asia by July to better educate stakeholders, particularly policymakers and implementers. The center is part of a joint initiative by the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific and the UN Habitat, and will initially focus on strengthening the capacity of policymakers and stakeholders in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia to fast-track the three nations' pursuit of the Millennium Development Goals before expanding to the rest of Southeast Asia. Korean Times reports that POSCO ENC, an affiliate of South Korea's #1 steel maker POSCO, has marked 2 decades of business in Vietnam. The construction firm has built 2 landmark structures since 1995 in Vietnam. The Diamond Plaza complex, its first luxury shopping center in Ho Chi Minh City, and the Post-Lillamad steel plant, which is 60 kilometers away from Hanoi.
BizHub.vm reports that Russian firm Rosneft will provide 6 million tons of oil annually via the Cosmino terminal during the 2014-2039 period for the Dung Quất oil refinery in Vietnam. The Cosimo terminal is an oil pipeline extending from the eastern Siberia to the Pacific Ocean. The major terms for the long-term oil supply to the refinery after the accomplishment of the final stage of its modernization were finalized in an agreement signed by its president cum chairman of the management board Igor Sechin and the Vietnam Oil and Gas Group president Nguyễn Xuân Sơn at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. The signing ceremony was led by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Philippines and Vietnam has targeted to achieve $3 billion bilateral trade by 2016, as compared to $2.6 billion posted last year. The two countries also agreed to facilitate businesses and increase connectivity and ensure food security for mutual benefit in the context of growing tension in the East Sea. Vietnam is the 18th biggest trading partner of the Philippines, while the latter mainly imports rice, steel products, and machinery, equipment and spare parts from Vietnam, and its key exports are computers, electronics, spare parts, and steel scrap to Vietnam. Despite the month getting off to a slow start, Vietnam enjoyed a trade surplus of $928 million in May, according to Vietnam Customs reports. The country's exports jumped to $51.59 billion for the May reporting period, while imports rose to $50.66 billion. Foreign invested enterprises accounted for nearly 63% of the country's total export earnings. In the first half of May, exports experiencing sharp declines in telephone handsets and components, crude oil, garments, as well as computers, electronics and components.
And now, as usual, before saying goodbye, let's take a look at our updated weather forecast. That is all we have for you at this hour. Simply log on to our address at vtv4.vn if you would like to rewatch this program. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you back here at 3 p.m. local time.